everybody, and welcome to Fishtrap Fireside. My name is Mike Midlow, and wow, Shannon and I were talking. I don't know if many people are going to come up tonight. It's a little foggy, but look at this. It's like everybody's here. Open the doors and see all the people. So great to have all of you here. Fishtrap, for those who are new, Fishtrap Fireside is a monthly reading series for Wallowa County writers to share their work, and each month we get a little glimpse of what people of the West are thinking about and writing down. And it's always so fun to have such a new group of people and have new visitors come in and people who have never come, and tonight's no different. It's really an honor. And for those who haven't been to this new space, this is Fishtrap's new event space. We opened it up in September. Wow, we're going to do so many things in here. And by the time you come next month, it will probably be like some really cool sound things. Thank you, acoustic panels. Just to kind of make it easier to hear in here, and it's also going to look pretty, thanks to Janice Carper. Tonight's featured readers are Sebastian, Hobbs, Kathryn, Kemp, and Nathan Slinker. Right. January's, what's cool is each month a local business steps up and helps sponsor, and I just want to call out January's Fishtrap Fireside sponsor is Copper Creek Mercantile. Thanks, folks. It really makes a difference. Next time you're in Joseph, stop in and say thanks for sponsoring it. Here's how Fireside works. Each month we have 3 featured readers. Each of them get about 10 minutes to come up and do anything that they want. Read poetry, stories, tell jokes, do whatever that they want. And they get about 10 minutes, and then we take a break where you can fill up your cup, have a snack, visit with some folks, and then afterwards we have an open mic. And the open mic is fun because sometimes people just say, well, I scribbled down this poem while I was listening to this last reading, or there was something I read in the paper, or I was inspired by Anna Moholt showing up tonight and wanted to give it. Whatever it might be. It's up to 5 minutes. We've only got one person signed up so far. You can sign up on the board over there. There's also like a tip sheet on how to do that, and it's always kind of fun to have that happen. Okay, I've got so much stuff to talk about tonight, but let's get going to our first reader first. Sebastian Hobbs is our first reader. Sebastian grew up in Lostine, raising rainbow trout, sheep, and goats with his parents and 2 younger brothers. His writing began to become meaningful in high school, but Sebastian took a break from writing poetry while studying at Reed College. With quarantine, he began to write short stories and letters, and more recently continued back into poetry. In addition to writing, Sebastian has spent time studying medium format film photography. Is that 35 millimeter, something like that? Argentine tango, piano, and painting, so put it together for Sebastian.
Well, hello. I'm afraid I don't have just a whole lot to read tonight. I don't think I'm going to make it to 10 minutes with what I have to read, so I might as well try to explain how I got to what I wrote down. Which is to say, more or less, I went through France. I could probably stop there and everything. And as Mike mentioned, I started writing short stories. I started that maybe 3 or 4 years ago. A little bit before I started traveling, and well, I think I'd actually better just launch into my reading. Sorry if I'm having some wine. In the slumbering, somnolent quiet, staring through the glaring dark, reflections of our moonscapes stark, 1,000 jewels and glittering eyes, the crashing remnants of the sky. I watched part of the sunrise. The sky was a luminous light blue and a ring around the world, covered in deep grey like the old wood that barns are made of, with cracks of green and yellow running through it. Now it is yellow and grey, but the sun is shining in through my window. All these sounds in the air are coming down the long, long river from the peak of highest longing, the sing-songbird in the void that prances up and down the high wire, the constant, desolate sweeping of the cars over old roads, morning thunder, all longing to be felt in the mind. Felt like a warm blanket on a cool night, wrapped around two lovers beneath an olive tree, watching clouds eclipse the moon and admiring its light passing over the thin, silver leaves. The rising streets shine like rose gold, dreaming of ocean waves and the seduction of the theatre. The light is warmer this morning. I can really feel it on my shoulder, not a parasitic light cutting in, but a gentler touch that rests on your skin. I can't tell the color. It reminds me of a singular morning in France, forming into beams and cloudy smears on the windows, so that the room itself feels full of light, like the light is emerging from the air. I'm not sure if it is choking. I can barely see. Or maybe I am just seeing everything too quickly, too many times. It could be like the shining of a flashlight in your eyes, but it isn't. It seems to poke holes in the typewriter reality. It is a whole star shining and being held in the eye. A running sun star touching up from Mars and swallowing the dawn's remaining stars. An umber and increasing gilt and gold, eclipse and drawing halfway, silver star. Young in the sky, but in the sky is old. A running sea flows bloody, glimmering gold, and hungry waves that meet the meat of mold. The light remains. It appears golden and red. It is warm in my eyes, but I cannot feel it on my skin. The blue and green sky I can feel. It is the color of collapsing outwards. A dissolution into the vast, bright darkness, cold with billion-year-aged bombs. They stab at the eyebrows and the ears like tiny needles. The stabbing gives way to the pricking of fir needles that stick painfully comforting in the elastic of my socks. The stars have changed to yellow Charlie Brown Christmas stars. I found a pair of mushrooms growing just above the ice. It was really cool because they'd gone out to measure the ice. It was going ice skating, and there were just a couple of mushrooms sticking out of the pier there. They looked totally untroubled by the fact that it was freezing cold. The big ones too. Huge. That big. Big. And the ice there at the edges, the water had dropped so that the ice had cracked and started caving in around the edges, and you could see the gravel underneath it. It was dry gravel just sitting underneath this cracked ice, and so when I got onto the ice, you'd slide down past this sort of cracked margin onto the ice, and the ice was all caked in snow, so everything was crunchy but I found a pair of mushrooms growing just above the ice. What new life can happen now? The doors are closed, the music has stopped, and the dance floor is empty except for the bottles and ribbons and balloons. These things continue to exist once they have been used, but they are not the same. They trip instead of making you smile, and they choke instead of getting you high. They burst in a single spectacular event, and then they become empty. Who keeps empty bottles or burst balloons until they decay away into small dusty boxes in the closet? Who keeps stinking rags and broken pots and pans and small useless shoes? Who takes the ashes in their hands and places them softly in the ground?
Sebastian. That was great. I was talking to a friend that I hadn't talked to in maybe 10 or 12 years, who lives in White Salmon, Washington, and she was saying, Mike, you work at Fishtrap, right? That's that writer's camp. And it made me think about how people outside of the county just think about summer fish trap mostly. And but all the other programs that we do here for Wallowa County folks, our mission, as most of you know, is to promote clear thinking and good writing in and about the West. And part of that is Winter Fish Trap. Winter Fish Trap fulfills kind of that humanities or clear thinking part of what we do. And each year we pick a theme. This year's theme, it's the overarching theme for the entire year, which is generations, and how we're exploring that from Winter Fish Trap all the way through to Summer Fish Trap. Winter Fish Trap is coming up. Would you forgive me if I told you about a few of the events?
Please do.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Starting next Sunday at the South Fork Grange in Lostine, we're doing an event in storytelling we're calling the Roots of Wallowa County. And June Colony is going to kind of set it up like a campfire situation, a real comfy kind of a scene, and is going to invite people to come and just tell stories about what they remember, whatever generation you are, that's important to you about Wallowa County. There are several people that we know are going to read, including June, Ralph Anderson, Carl Lincoln, Kate Loftus, John Winans, and more. So it'll be a Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock. You can come, and they're going to have snacks and some stuff to drink, and we're just going to share some stories about the roots. You might learn some things about the roots of Wallowa County. We're going to have a writing workshop starting Saturday mornings, January 14th, for 4 weeks with Kathy Hunter called Writing Life Stories. A lot of us would think, gosh, I'd like to write the story about my insert relative or friend or important person in your life. I'd really like to be around people and figure out how I can do that. And so folks are going to meet here on Saturday mornings for 4 weeks with Kathy Hunter, and we're just going to learn about writing our life stories. On Tuesday, January 17, one night, Jennifer Hobbs and Shannon McNerney are going to lead a writing workshop about telling your stories. Hold on for a second, let me find it. It's called Your Legends and Lore, a storytelling workshop. It's about like getting up and telling a story to people.
Yeah,
it's not about writing at all. It's about oral storytelling. And it'll be a chance to like, hey, I've got this story, but I always go too long, or I don't know where to start or finish, and maybe you'll be able to find some inspiration by talking with a group of people there. It should be super fun. I think registration is like $25, and students are free. And then this one is really cool. Circle this one. You could sign up for it at the break. You could buy a ticket at the break if you want to. On Friday, January 20, right here, we're going to have the one-person play called According to Coyote. It's a Nez Perce origin story starring Nez Perce actor Kellen Trennell. His name is Kellen Lewis, but he goes by Kellen Trennell as an actor. There are a limited amount of tickets. I think we can fit like 80 or 100 people in here. I suggest getting one. We're trying to make it as cheap as possible. I think tickets for adults are $15, $10 for fish trappers, students and indigenous folks free, but you've got to get a ticket at fishtrap.org. So I encourage you to do that as soon as you can, because I think it'll sell out fast. And if you haven't seen Kellen, he's a beautiful human being and is a wonderful, wonderful actor. Thank you for listening to all those Winter Fish Trap things. I hope you are a part of it. Okay, let's get to our next. And the According to Coyote thing is kind of a family event. So bring the whole crew. Okay, let's get to our next reader. Now I've done the thing that I see people do all the time. Okay, here we go. It's scary up here. All right, our next reader, Nathan has been a part Fishtrap Fireside, I think, since the first season. Nathan Slinker has published poems in many journals, including Third Coast, Mid-American Review, the Greensboro Review, and the Canyon Review Online. He was a Fishtrap Fellow back in 2013, a semi-finalist for the Discovery Boston Review Poetry Prize, and he was just a finalist for New River Press. Good job, Nathan. New River Press made voice press. And if you're like me, you know that he runs Alderslope Nursery just outside of Enterprise. Put it together for Nathan Slinker.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming out and being here to listen to some poetry. And it's great to be in this new space with Fishtrap. It's beautiful. I'm going to read 4 kind of confusing, weird, depressing poems. Sorry. I don't usually like to explain too much about the stuff. It's not necessary, but in this case, I've written a whole bunch of poems that have a character Jeremy in them, and in an earlier poem, you would know that all you need to know is he's only got one arm. Something happened, but anyways. So. Movement from farm to table with forest interlude. A few carrion birds sit on the rusted grain elevator. Behind it, the land smooths to skin, grows its hair out again. In the hills, a few miles off, Jeremy stands in a far-reaching clear-cut, says, I don't feel any better, and I don't feel any different. It's just loss, again and again like hail. We sleep in a cradle of slash piles. Look up, he says, and you'll see the only brilliant things we can't piss on and smother. Jeremy wants to stay at our place tonight. Can we make up the couch or a spot on the floor? You can make up whatever you want. Okay. 2 glass bottles of Coke, straws elbowing out of their mouths on the diner counter the day Jeremy said, to hell with your mythic landscapes, man. We all exist in a deep garage and run on bullets. That night, I had a dream where I cut Jeremy's other arm off, and he just said, you always loved symmetry. And he walked out of the dream and into the living room and turned on the TV, which woke me up. A cooking show was on, and when I came into the room, the chef was pouring a thin stream of melted butter into a glass bowl, whisking with one hand while the other hand poured. And Jeremy sat on the couch crying, and he looked up at me and said, you lucky bastard, a minute ago he was chopping up all the onions. But it's not funny, Jeremy, not really. I'm looking at you like looking down into my own body, and it's just some abandoned farm, a big broken windowed house, the family graveyard with mercy written on every stone, and standing regally out back, a grain silo full of starving mice. Someone's phone's ringing. It's from Mary.
Sorry, it's my hearing aids.
Measurements, or more notes on extinction. At the edge of exile, at the end of my vision, a long, elegant bird, barely darker than snow, perches on the tall fence. Days were, we wondered why, we hummed along while so many songs cut out each spring, each sunfall furling static into ice. There is no good reason, but the hours lengthen, They roll down the lane like barrows, and I foist my impetuousness upon them. Rising from the snowbank, a train car full of harvest mice melts into a week of sumac poisoning. The old condor's wingspans, wider than the hothouse I sleepwalk through. Each of us is only partially responsible, as far as I know. Another bird, slightly smaller, alights on the fence. Each day, I reach into my chest and see how far my arm goes. Then I walk out to the fence and hold my arm up to it. This takes up all my time. These two are a little weirder. Walking to Deep Creek and thinking about Shackleton's incredible voyage. And you probably know Shackleton, but it's the Arctic exploration, and they were down there for a long time and wandering around on the Antarctic continent and stuff. Anyways. Walking to Deep Creek and thinking about Shackleton's incredible voyage. A coyote burns in the switchgrass, dumb as heat, and that ominous crack in the sky opens again, like a mouth for scrap. I've been traveling 9 days to get close to it, but Jeremy says the world's not worth finding. I do my best impression of a ghost town, and still he laughs at the relentless sunrise, his clipped shadow shrinking over a firkin of whitefish. Back on the second day, a shepherd's cart tipped in my mirth and broke cottonwoods choked the narrow crossing. Ill winds drifted through saw pit. 4 cows full of stomachs, like a warning, had died nearby. So I decided against the river, high as I was. On day 5, I made Freeze Out Saddle, where we camped in the cold so long ago. Jeremy wanted to play Shackleton, and I let him. We couldn't bear to ask, though we knew why the reindeer slimier grew. And Jeremy said, well, if anyone's losing a limb to frostbite. And we laughed, hard as ice. In fact, we tried to ignore it, our pretend feet going numb. Today, bitter juniper berries fall in the dust, and the slack sky mouth, like, as I stated, a faded cloud, swallows the long, dry tail of grace. I'm out here for you, my furies, my foundlings, mute beauties, and I know nothing's quite as classic as the right now. But I can't shake the feeling that the pile of shot-dead sled dogs is still down there, still perfect, beneath a century of snow. Okay, last one. Monarchs of the High Country. We drove through the Colorado night, aspens and snowberry like traitorous bone, impossible to unsee against the stark brown cabins, the archaic porticos they carve cherry blossoms into. But no degree of light pollution can obscure the stories we tell ourselves. When you said robin's egg blue as a threat, I knew we would fall in with a clutch of dry thieves. And furthermore, I would not be astonished to find a goddamn loot in the lumpy feed sack our neighbor drags across the contemptuous furrows of his mustard field. Looking at me through his fingers, Jeremy says, these are the slatted blinds of the Hermitage. But all I could think of was my foolproof recipe for beef Wellington, which he increasingly desists from complimenting. It took me ages to understand chartreuse. That is funny. Burgundy, I admit, it came much easier. So we critique the pornography of the royals with the eye of highbrow fashionistas. There's no understanding the attraction of butterflies to this particular shoulder, yet here they are, creating a kind of pauldron not out of place in any of my fantasies. After all, a small circlet of blood always remains when she steps from the shower and removes her crown. No amount of decadence surprises me. I am completely covered in skin. Jeremy claps and says, "This is the sound of one hand clapping." When I'm in bed reading, I sometimes wonder if anyone can hear me. Jeremy says, "If no one's around to hear them, even sick monarchs falling like ash in a meadow in the high country make almost no noise." Thank you.
Thanks, Nathan. I'm just going to say again, it's so cool to have all these people here, all of you folks. It's been a long time, and it feels starting to feel really warm and cozy in the new spot, and that's because you're here. I also want to thank all of you folks who are watching on Fishtrap's Facebook page or later on our YouTube channel or website. Thanks for watching online. Okay. Do you know somebody who loves to write? Do you know somebody who maybe is thinking about writing or secretly writes stuff down, or has some, or just wants some support in what they're writing? Summer Fishtrap scholarship applications are open now. We have a variety of opportunities for folks who, for one reason or another, might not be able to attend Summer Fishtrap. And so we have these several different scholarship opportunities, including the Bryn Lundy Memorial Scholarship, the Frank Connolly Scholarship, the Sally Bowerman Bob Hall Scholarship, and a few others. Scholarship applications are open until the 15th of this month. So if you know somebody who would bloom with the Summer Fishtrap experience, encourage them to apply for a scholarship. Youth scholarships will open this spring, and you'll hear more about that later. Also, Summer Fishtrap registration opens February 1st. It's going to be again at Wallowa Lake Lodge. Yeah, and we have a blast up there. If you haven't seen the lineup of instructors and workshops, it's pretty good this coming summer. Take a look at fishtrap.org. All right, our third reader is Kathryn Kemp. Kathryn spent her childhood in the woods of Joseph, Oregon, before moving to the East Coast for 8 years for her education. After receiving her master's degree in social work from Columbia University in New York City, she returned to Wallowa County in 2019 to proudly serve the residents of her home community. Kathryn firmly believes in the power of rural communities to collaborate and design local solutions for recovery and healing. She also enjoys helping clients of all ages heal in the midst of relationship difficulties, life transitions, acute and developmental traumas, and attachment wounds. In her free time, Kathryn enjoys singing, writing, drinking tea, doing yoga in the sunshine, and cuddling with her cat, Larry. She is currently earning a doctoral degree in social work through Walla Walla University. Here she comes, Kathryn Kemp.
That was my bio from work. My writer's bio that I started off doing spoken word poetry with a group of friends in college. And who's ever been to Poetry Slam?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So in spoken word poetry, that's yes. Whoever just did that, yes. If you hear something you like, you're supposed to snap or hoot or holler. Maybe don't do that, but like snap. That would be cool. Because there's nothing more terrifying to a spoken word poet than reading to a dead silent audience. It's like really, really scary. Anyway, Mike said, I'm a clinical social worker and I work with all sorts of people, but I love working with kids, and I've worked with kids in hospitals and clinics and schools. My partner is really interested in physics and talks to me about the theory of the multiverse. sometimes, and as weird as that idea is, I find it rather comforting. So, in the work that I do, so this poem is called Schrodinger's Boy. In 1952, Edward Schrodinger spoke about the multiverse and warned people he might seem like a lunatic. He talked about equations that tell many different stories about the world all at once, little realities, always coming and going with every little possibility, entire universes branching apart. For example, there is a cat in a box. The cat is both dead and alive. Open the box, and there's a dead cat inside. Yet there is a universe in which the cat is still alive and sleeping on its old favorite tattered couch. There is a world in which it is quietly breathing. There is a boy in a box. The boy is both dead and alive. The boy is 15 years old. His box is the shape of broken pavement and dirt roads. It is the color of neon open signs that shut off at 7 p.m. I open the box. The boy is alive. He looks up but does not come out. He sits and pokes holes in his box. This is all he knows. On the inside, he has painted silhouettes of a father who left him, of a mother who's wearing thin. The boy can't remember if he's 15 years old and alone, or 4 years old and alone. He just knows it's dark in here. He keeps poking his holes. At 7 p.m., all the neon signs turn off again. The boy is punching holes now. His box gets boarded up from the outside. He starts carving holes in himself. They keep opening the box. The boy looks up at me and cries. Right now, he is both dead and alive. He and his friends come out of their boxes at night. They've learned to like the dark. They find other things to punch holes into. There's a universe in which they end up in a bigger box. This box doesn't have any holes. I keep opening the box. I look like a lunatic. Everyone tells me the boy inside has died. But somewhere, there is another universe spinning off from the edges of the dirt roads. Here, the boy is alive and breathing on an old tattered couch. There is a universe in which he has turned the box into a house in a town where the lights stay on. He has built a door. It opens onto the pavement. There is a universe in which he has stopped painting silhouettes. He looks up, and in a nanosecond, all these little worlds fold themselves quietly into this one. His eyes stitch all the spaces in between. He is dead and alive. He is inside and outside. He is 4 and 15. They keep opening the box. The boy and I both cry. He keeps poking his holes, but they are smaller now. I keep waiting outside. So, like Mike also said, I grew up here in Joseph, and then I went to college in a land far, far away. I wanted to see the world, so I went to Davidson, North Carolina, which is not where you go to see the world, but it was bigger than here. And then when I was 23, I decided to move to New York City, which, yeah, I don't know what I was thinking, but this is the field guide to moving from the mountains to the middle of Manhattan completely alone in your 20s. Step 1, watch every Netflix series set in New York City, no matter how objectively awful they may be. Step 2, when you tell the mountain dwellers that you're moving to the city and they look at you like you've lost your mind, don't take it personally. Step 3, when you arrive, make sure you stay inside your apartment for 3 straight days living off takeout delivery sushi because you were certain the concrete jungle will eat you alive. Step 4, realize you've lost your mind. Step 5, after 3 days, go to a random rooftop bar on a Saturday where the drinks cost twice as much as any hourly wage you've ever made in your life, sip on a Sprite, and just take selfies with the skyline. Step 6, complain about the subway. because nothing says real New Yorker like complaining about the subway. Number 7, pretend that parks are real nature. When you tell people that you love being in the wilderness, listen as they tell you about their hike in Central Park last week. Smile and nod when they tell you Long Island is rural. Step 8, accept that you now live your life within a series of boxes. Walk from the street corner box to the office box, to the market box, to the classroom box, to the subway box, sit alone in your apartment box and wonder why the hell humans try to live this way. Step 9, close your eyes and try not to forget what it feels like to see the entire sky. Step 10, get drunk at a cocktail bar with airplane bottles of vodka you brought in your purse to save money on cocktails. You guys didn't hear that moment, did you? Step 11, wonder what it does to the human spirit when we pass millions of other humans every day and all ignore each other. Step 12, say hello to the man sitting next to you on the subway. Tell him about how much you miss nature. Ask him about where he grew up. Step 13, realize that 90% of these people are just as lonely as you are. Step 14, listen to the little boy who comes up to you at the cafe with his grandma when he tells you that he talks to himself and he's upset because nobody will talk to him. Listen to him say that his mother is in the Bronx with her boyfriend and left him when he was 5 years old. Listen when he thanks you for listening. Step 15, look in his eyes. Do your best to show him what it feels like to see the entire sky. This last one is about, what is it? So when I was in my poetry group in college, we had only one rule, and the rule was no disclaimers, which means like when you start to read a poem, you just gotta get up there and go. You can't stand there and be like, well, I don't know if this is ready yet, because like when you're with a bunch of insecure 18-year-olds, like the show would never get started. And I just think it's so funny, like the little maneuvers we do when we feel exposed, so that's what this poem is about. I just wrote this yesterday. I just wrote this morning. I wrote this years ago, and I haven't performed it yet, so we'll see how it goes. I'm trying this whole memorizing thing, so I might screw up, but that's okay. I hope this goes okay. My best friend is making me do this. Just so you know, I'm new at this. I've been doing this for years now, but I still feel like I'm going to shit myself. I wrote this in the Notes app on my phone when I was stuck on the train, and I sure hope no one ever hacks the Notes app on my phone or down all my secrets. Just so you know, these are the words I say over and over to myself in my head because I don't quite believe them yet. I wrote this for the boyfriend I don't have yet. I wrote this for the boyfriend I used to have, but I'm trying to forget. I wrote this for my dog. I performed it for my dog, and he thought it was the cat's meow. I performed it for my cat, but my cat didn't finish it. I wrote this to the people I wish I had said the following things to, but never did. Thank you. I love you. I forgive you. Will you forgive me? These are the words that used to be the knots in my shoulders, the ache in my stomach. This is me pulling my heart and my lungs through my throat and just handing them to you. Here they are. Special delivery. Will you sign for them? And just so you know, this is a fragile sticker on some cardboard aspirations that got lost in the mail. This is me looking for the tracking number in my wastebasket. This is the prayer that I say to gods I'm not even sure I believe in on nights when I can't fall asleep. This is a hymn for all the times I saved my own life. I play it for those who were supposed to come running but forgot to. This is the anthem I squeeze from the spaces in between my spine on the days when gravity gets the best of me. There is a 50% chance that this is 75% emotional catharsis and 25% poetry, and you know what? That's okay. I wrote this because I had no other choice. Because when a tree falls in the forest, you should hear it. Because it always makes a sound. Because we're all just learning how to figure out how to fall in a world that tells us we're a little too loud, that calls the Amazon the lungs of the planet and still cuts it down. My lungs can fill 6 liters of air, but I've been holding my breath down 8,000 miles of New York highway, but one day I swear you'll hear this hymn somewhere between Brooklyn and Broadway in the wind. Do you know what it feels like to come up for air again? To finally see the view. Just so you know, when a tree falls in the forest, we should hear it. So go ahead, open your mouth, make us happy. Okay.
Thank you, Kathryn. Thank you, Nathan. Thank you, Sebastian. Before we take a break, I just want to say that next month, February, Fishtrap Fireside, we're going to have a couple people read who have never read before. It's going to be a doozy, I think. Robin Pace, Matt Kurtz, and one of our all-time favorites, Evelyn Swart, is going to read next month, so don't miss it. That's the 3rd of February. And before we get going, remember next Sunday at 3 o'clock is the story, The Roots of Wallowa County at the Grange in Lostine. And we have the open mic after this. Refill your glass, get a snack, and before we depart, Jennifer Hobbs has a little something to tell us.
So I'm Jennifer Hobbs. I am the Development and Outreach Manager, and the main thing I want to say to you all is thank you. I see out there a lot of fish trappers, and if you don't know what that is, ask me. And a lot of sponsors who keep coming back, and I see all of you holding this space and making the magic. And it's so fun to realize we didn't set out enough chairs. And it's so nice to see so many people honoring this amazing thing that happens, and it just doesn't happen without you. So, thank you. Thank you for the support, and thank you for the ongoing support. As you take a break, if you are interested in any ways to sustain Fishtrap, I'm here to talk to you, because this is something that we need. We need to have it keep going. It's just been magic for my family for over 20 years now. So, while you're visiting with each other, remember there's beverages in the fridge beyond what we have out here. There's coffee, there's tea, there's fizzy stuff, there's beer. And again, thank you. Thank you for all the ways that you make it keep going and going and going for us and for the generations to come.